welcome to my 12th episode of my knitting podcast. My name is Diala and I will be your host. If you are a new viewer, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode, and if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back each week to spend this time with me. I really appreciate it. Today is the 25th of May, which also happens to be my father's birthday. And that is kind of a thing in this podcast because that's what my finished object is. My finished object is my dad's birthday present. And other than that, I can tell you that if you are a returning viewer, you will know that usually I podcast in Edinburgh, where I live with, where I hope to live with my husband. But at the moment, I'm currently in South Africa, busy applying for my spousal visa. So I'm waiting to see what happens with that. So I've been missing my husband very much because I've been away for over a month now. And at the moment I am in Azafontein at my parents' holiday house. So if you hear a bit of noise in the background or whatever, that's probably just there. So yes, we are in Azafontein. So this is not my usual setup. It's kind of been all over the place the last couple of weeks. Where you can find me, I am on Ravelry as Craft Needle Addict, and we also have a podcast group on Ravelry, which is the Needle Addict podcast group. And you should definitely go and check it out. You can chat about the different episodes there. You're welcome to make your own threads and ask questions or anything if you want. I also have a thread dedicated to comments and questions and suggestions specifically to do with the podcast, and you can ask me things and I'll probably answer you there, and then I'll also answer it here on the podcast. Yeah, and I'm also planning to do a giveaway in the future, so you should definitely join there because it'll probably be run through that or my Instagram. So the other place you can find me is my Instagram, which is xhoopx, and there I post a lot of sort of day-to-day life things, mainly knitting, and then also some art because that's what I usually do as an artist. So yeah, you can join there, and even if I'm not posting a video in the week, which I usually post every week, but if I'm not posting because of life getting in the way, then I'm usually still posting on Instagram as well. So to start off with, my finished objects. And this is my father's birthday present, which I've already given to him and he really likes. So it's a pair of gloves and a scarf as well. And I made up this pattern myself, and you can see it's not exactly the same, but I've done like a similar, goes that way, similar sort of thing on the glove and the scarf. So I will be writing up this pattern and hopefully putting it on Ravelry, but I do not know how long that will take me since I've never done this before. And since it's my dad's birthday present, I asked him if he would like to name the pattern, and he's named it Spitfire, which I really like. And he chose the colours as well for the scarf because he has an orange jacket that he wants it to go with. And yeah, so I just, also this does not really need the lining on the inside. If you look here, I'll probably give a closer zoom in video, but the strands are not that big that it's really necessary to have a lining, but I had this material and it feels really nice and soft, so I decided that I would like to do the lining anyway. And then for any sort of like whips or anything, the only thing I have is that the pattern I'm working on. Excuse me. So I have written, this is sort of a man size. I do want to find someone else to try these on as well, because I don't know if my dad, I think he has ginormous hands, but apparently he just has man size hands. But I have written up a smaller copy where I made just one half of a set of gloves, which unfortunately I left at home, it's not here with me, but I have written it up for sort of a woman's size as well. So, and I might do sort of intermediate size kind of in between the two later, I'm not sure. But I do kind of want to have someone else knit up this pattern that I've written to make sure that it doesn't just make sense to me, it makes sense to other people as well. So I might ask my mom to knit a pair and see how she goes with those. But that is kind of it for these, and I really enjoyed knitting these, and they've taken quite a while. They took about, well, the gloves were quite quick, but the scarf took me about 2 weeks, but that's also because I was busy applying for my visa at the same time, so that kind of took a while. Okay, so on to stash enhancement. This section is going to be a little bit bigger this week because I did a bit of shopping. So last week, Saturday, which I believe was the 20th, we went to the Waterfront, which is actually called the V&A, or Victoria and Alfred Waterfront, and that is in Cape Town. And we went there. We've been there quite a few times over the year. Well, we go quite often as a family, but it's also quite a big tourist destination. And there's a place there called the Watershed, which is kind of a collection of sort of indie South African companies. And so we went there because I heard that there was a nice yarn shop there called Cowgirl Blues. And I will put in some pictures here. The lady at the shop really liked Koo that I brought, the fact that I brought Koo with, and it's a cow with the Cowgirl Blues shop, so she really liked that. Anyway, so while I was there, I picked up a skein of yarn for you guys, and here it is. So this is, I was looking at her different colors, and they had little swatches of them knit up and everything as well, and she said that this was her most popular color, so I thought that this was a safe bet to go. And it says it's 100% wool, 320 meters, superwash, and it's a merino sock, 100 grams. Now, I personally do not like to knit socks out of 100% wool. I feel like the added nylon or polyamide in most sock wools helps it to be more strong, so that when you're walking on them you don't develop holes and they don't stretch out of shape. But obviously, if you win this yarn, you can do whatever you like with it. I personally would probably turn it into like a shawl or something, but obviously you can do whatever you like. The reason I bought the sock wool is because even though it doesn't have the nylon content, it's because it was their only 4-ply yarn, and I wanted to buy a 4-ply yarn. So I'm not sure about the colorway. I don't know if it's a colorway or if they're actually just listing the colors in the yarn, because it is guinea fowl, seagrass, silver fox, and emerald. So I think those are actually all the different colors that are in here, and I think that really suits it. It's lovely color yarn. Yeah, so this is made in South Africa, I believe it's dyed in Woodstock in Cape Town, but anyway, it's really lovely yarn. And this, I'm not sure if I'm going to run the competition to win, or yeah, to win this giveaway through my Ravelry group or through my Instagram group, or kind of through both. I am planning on possibly buying some more yarn, so I might run one through the one and one through the other. But I'm only going to be doing the giveaway once I get back to Edinburgh, because the postal system in South Africa as a whole is a little bit dodgy. Like, it tends to get stuck in Joburg. Joburg has a central depot for all the postage stuff, and it just tends to sit there for ages. I've ordered stuff while I'm in South Africa and it's taken me like 3-4 months to get it, and then sometimes you never get it at all. I've also ordered stuff and never got it. And if you use a courier here, it tends to be really, really expensive, kind of like not worth it expensive. So I'm going to wait till I'm back in Edinburgh before I send this as a giveaway. So that'll also give me a bit of time to kind of work out how I'm going to go about running the giveaway. And while I was there, I also bought this necklace. This is what they call a fynbos gem, or yeah, it's made from compressed fynbos. So if you've been to Scotland, you may have heard of the heather gems. Now I have family from Scotland, and when they came to visit, they gave me a little heart made out of compressed heather, which they had bought in England, or Scotland rather, and so the way that it is made is they take a whole lot of heather, they take the stalks and the flowers and the leaves and everything, and they compress it into a block, kind of like wood, except for it's made from the compressed heather. And then they cut out the different shapes, so you can get it in many different shapes. Often it's set into rings or whatever it is, and then they sometimes it's dyed first when it's compressed, but the necklace that I have, the heart that I got from my Scottish family, and this one that I bought are both undyed, and so they sometimes dye it into a color, sometimes they don't. They cut it into a shape, and then they polish it, and then they lacquer it, and that kind of gives it like the sort of like gem effect. Now the interesting thing is, the necklace I got, the Scottish heather one I got, must have been about between 5 and 7 years ago. And then only recently did I see that they had started doing the same thing out of compressed fynbos. And so I wanted a heart to match, well, not to match, but kind of like, I wanted a heart out of compressed fynbos, which is indigenous to South Africa. If you didn't know that, it's a kind of a species of plant that grows here. And then I would also have my compressed heather one, so I kind of have from my two countries that I love. And so I wanted that. And the interesting thing is kind of comparing them, because I find that this one, the fynbos one, still kind of looks like wood, and it still has that like sort of wooden feel to it, whereas the heather one, which unfortunately I don't have here with me, is, I think they must have polished it a lot more, or maybe done a lot more lacquer to it, and it almost looks like tiger's eye. But when I get back to Edinburgh, where it is with my jewelry is all with my husband, I'll definitely show you them close up so you can see what I mean. So that's another thing I got while I was at the same place. And then my next thing I'm planning to knit is a shawl for my mom, and it's out of this yarn, which I've shown you guys so many times. This is the Noelle Yarn in the Sip Sip range, which I got from the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And recently my mother and I went to the shops to go and buy some more 4-ply yarn to use with it. Now, we looked at the different 4-plies and that sort of thing, and I really wanted something with a high wool content, because this is 100% merino wool, so I wanted something with a high wool content. And so I landed up going with the L sock wool, which is, oh, Salty's here. Salty is my cat, which you might remember. I told you guys about her running away and stuff when I was in Edinburgh, and she was with my parents. Whew. But she's on holiday with us here because she doesn't like to be left alone, so we drove out with us. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. So we got this yarn to match. Now, L is a South African brand of yarn. It's made in South Africa. It's a soft wool. This is a very, very soft sock wool. I have never felt such soft sock wool. I've used it before, I really like it, but it is incredibly soft. I really haven't felt any other wool as soft, and it is 80% wool and 20% nylon, and it is just the way that they treat the wool. I don't know if they do it chemically or how they do it, but it is incredibly soft. But my only hesitation about it is that I have knit a pair of socks out of it before, and I found that they didn't keep their shape as well. I think it might be because it's the one sock which I accidentally, it was like my second pair of socks I'd knit, I accidentally knit the leg too short, and I find that sock slips down my ankle and kind of over my heel, and which is obviously very frustrating. So I don't know if it's that the sock just doesn't hold it, if the wool's too soft and doesn't hold its shape well, or if it's because I knit the cuff too short. But I mean the leg too short, but the cuff should hold it in place. But I have knit a pair of socks out of this yarn for my husband, but I only knit the leg and the foot out of it. The cuff and the heel and the toe are all out of a different yarn, which isn't as soft, but it seems to keep its shape better, and those are fine because structurally the heel and the cuff are really where it keeps the shape and keeps the sock onto your foot. And so I think that I think this yarn is very nice and very soft, but I think that if I knit more in future with this, I will definitely only use them for the actual kind of body of the foot and not the heel and the cuff. There's a long sidetrack because this is not even going to be a pair of socks, this is going to be a shawl. Anyway, we chose these colors to go together, and I think it will look fantastic. I'm very excited about doing these. And this is going to be for my mom. I'm not 100% settled on the shawl pattern yet, but I'm very excited. And this is what I'm going to be starting this weekend while I'm up here. And while I was at the shops with my mom, busy buying that, I also bought some wool for a pair of memory socks for myself. So these, I love these colors together. It took me quite a while to choose the colors, but I really like them together. So this is also a South African wool. It is yeah, it's also South African. It's called African Expressions. They have a whole lot of different ranges. They have a harmony range, and it's all, they have different names for their different kind of what it's used for, whether it's merino or whatever it's made out of. And this range is called Soul, and that is their sock range. And this one is just like a plain color, whereas this one is like the hand painted variegated one, and it is hand painted. So I think, yeah, they both have the same content. So the content is 15% kid mohair, 15% mulberry silk, 50% merino wool, and 20% polyamide. So these are lovely. They really are lovely. And I've knit two pairs out of this. It might have been the same colorway. I don't think it was. Might have been, not sure. Anyway, I've knit out of the hand painted one before for my mother. And they hold up very well, the structure's good, and they feel amazing. So I bought these, and I just bought this for contrasting cuffs and toes and everything, just because I felt like it. And I was thinking of possibly buying some more for a giveaway as well, because it really is lovely yarn. But I do have to check my budget and see how things are going before I leave. But yes, I'm very excited for these, but I'm probably also, unless I get all my knitting done for other people that I've planned to do, because I also have another scarf I'm going to knit for my mom's friend, and I have another pair of socks I'm going to knit for my mom. So I'm not sure about that, whether I'm going to get around to that. Another thing I'm not sure about is whether I'm going to buy more of this. This is the L sock wool. So this is what I was just telling you about, that I would only use it for the ankle and the foot, not the rest of the sock. But it is still incredibly soft, so there's a part of me that is considering buying some more to take back with me, but I'm going to speak to my husband about that, whether he wants that or not, because it is a bit frustrating that you can't use it for the rest of the foot. And yeah, so that is it for my acquisitions and everything. I actually have some more things, but they're all back home, so that will be nicely spaced out for next week. So for this extra segment at the end, I would like to introduce to you my mother.
Thank you. Hi.
And I'm bringing her on today to talk about this gorgeous blanket. So I actually hadn't planned to talk about this. Put it over us.
Yep.
I hadn't planned to talk about this, but when I got here, I opened the cupboard and saw it, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is an amazing knitted heirloom, or I don't know what you want to call it, but this is an amazing thing that my mom, and partly I think my grandmother
Yeah, she helped me in the end.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask my mom some questions about it, and you could watch. So, so I wanted to ask you, the first thing I was going to ask was, oh yes, I asked, when did you start it?
Yeah. Well, it must have been around about 1988 or 1989. It was before you were born. So I was just knitting. I like these colours, and I suppose I thought, well, I'm not really a great knitter. I don't enjoy following patterns and that. And I thought, well, I can do squares, and my mum had shown me how you start with one stitch and you work up till the width, and then you come back down, and then that way you can control.
So you knit these as diamonds?
Yeah. And so I was knitting away, and then because I was newly married, people would say, oh, are you expecting a baby? And I was like, no, I'm not expecting a baby. I don't want to have children. So this is not a baby's blanket. I thought it was very hard for people to actually understand that, because everybody was expecting me to have children.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I did have children, but in my own time.
Yes. So you were saying that's a nice tip for anyone who, if you're knitting, you were saying how you knit these as a diamond shape.
Yes, yeah.
So that you could knit, do you want to explain a bit?
Yeah, okay, so it doesn't really matter what gauge, I think, do you call it
gauge? Or what thickness yarn you're using. Or,
because it just goes, well, I don't really know how to explain that, maybe you would be able to explain better.
You just knit, because you're knitting a square, and you're knitting it as a diamond, you knit it until the width, the longest part of your sort of, at that point it'll be a triangle, will be the same size as the previous square you've done. So this one might have 20 stitches in it, and this one might only have 10 because it's a thicker yarn. But once it reaches the same place, then you just start decreasing.
Exactly, yeah, that's right.
So it's a wonderful tip for you if you're wanting to knit a blanket out of odd scraps of yarn and you want them all to be the same sort of size, then that will work.
Yeah, and I think in the old days, because my mother also knitted one, it was kind of a way of using up your scraps. But a lot of these balls were bought because I didn't really realize how much wool went into a double blanket size. I think, yeah. So we bought quite a lot, and near the end, you know, when we got to like the lilacs and those sorts of colours, I started saying to my mum, oh, can you please help me? Because I really don't feel like knitting anymore. I had other things to do, because then I did have children.
Yes.
So I was wanting to be with you, and not specifically like knitting. So because I'm not a great knitter. So, you know.
So when did you finish this blanket?
I am not sure of the date.
But can you remember, like, kind of roughly what year it was?
Probably around about 2005.
So 2000. I was.
That's about 17 years, I think.
Okay, cutting back in. So that took 17 years to knit.
Yeah.
I was
13 years
I was
old.
13 years old when this was finished. I actually do remember you finishing it because, as you can see, my mom gave it a nice material backing, and that I believe gives it kind of a strength to it to hold it. Yeah, because this fits a double
queen size bed. Yeah.
so it's very big. It's lovely.
Because my mother never backed hers, but I just felt that it's quite difficult washing, especially when it's so big. I mean, even a single bed knitted blanket for me it's quite delicate, especially as it's hand sewed and everything.
And so how do you wash it?
I put it in a big plastic bath, or you can you can wash it in your bath. And I use a cold water, and I'll like really pure soap from sunlight soap or something for hand washing.
Okay. That's cool. I'm trying to think if I can think of anything else to ask you. Do you have anything else to say about it?
No, but I suppose, okay, so not the knitting part, but the actual sewing part. It was quite difficult. I put batting inside.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I had to lay it on a big table and pin it everywhere. And then I did also zigzag it along, I think it's this one, I caught it somewhere.
I can see. It's not it doesn't look like it's zigzag. It just looks like a very loose stitch.
So just so that it wouldn't all kind of...
Yeah, because this will be more stretchy than the material, because this is not a stretchy material.
That's right, And then this was probably after doing the edging, which you sew it by machine on one side, but then you curl it over, and I hand sewed the whole thing. My fingers felt like they had blisters. They were like blood red, because I'd sew and sew and sew and sew, but by the end of it, I thought, I'm never, ever going to do another one again. And, as you know, I did do another blanket, but it was a patchwork blanket. It wasn't a knitted one. Yes, but the same story.
Did you also?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
And I think one will go to you and one will go to Siobhan.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for coming to talk about it.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, I know. Hope everybody found that interesting.
Thank you. Okay, so that's it for this week's podcast. It's probably going to be a little bit of a longer one, and I really hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you will join me next week. Thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to leave any comments or questions or suggestions. Either you can leave them here, or if you've joined our Ravelry podcast group, then you can leave some comments there. So thank you very much, and